Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kit and this is my world. Thank you very much for joining me. In this episode I'm going to be doing the 15 Rogues tag by Jeremyfee. I'll leave a link in the description. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Question number 1, Moll Flanders. In what ways do you feel socio-economic status influences the lives of rogues? Well, I think it has a very great influence on the lives of rogues, right from the very beginning. If you're born at a low point on the totem pole, there's a good chance that roguery could ensue. If you're poor, if you're the child of a prostitute, if you're born into a roguistical society already. I know that's not a real word, but I'm hoping that I got away with it. If you're part of a roguistical society, then you'll be a rogue. An exiled prince could very easily become a rogue, so there's that as well. But I imagine that originating at the bottom of the pecking order is likely to have a profound influence on one's roguery. Question number 2, Catwoman. How important do you think it is for a rogue to be athletic, acrobatic and charming? Well, there are different types of rogue, aren't there? You could be the bandit kind of rogue who's fat and smelly and has absolutely no charisma whatsoever. But you jump out in front of a traveller and say, "Boo, give me your money." I don't think that's what you actually say. You say "stand and deliver," don't you? That's what Dick Turpin always said. Whatever, you don't necessarily have to be a charming rogue, but of course if you're going to be a charming rogue, having some charm is probably a prerequisite. So athletic, acrobatic and charming. Well, I like the acrobatic type of rogue. I like the ones that can backflip out of a window and land and go ta-da. Then they're wearing tights and they've got a rapier, but that's the way I visualize them. Athletics, certainly it's useful to be able to climb in and out of windows and to run along rooftops. Rooftoping is one of the best skills a rogue could have, probably, if he's the thievery kind of rogue. But a rogue is a very broad term, so yes and no. Those things would be good. Those are attributes that tend to apply to my favourite kind of rogues. I like gentleman rogues and skilled rogues, good-looking rogues. A rogue who looks good in tights is my kind of rogue. Not so much the fat bandit types. Anyway, moving on. Question number 3, Kevoth. Do you feel a rogue should have musical skills, singing, playing an instrument or dancing? Well, again, I don't think it's necessary for a rogue to have these skills, but certainly my kind of rogue would have those skills. In particular, singing. Singing is alluring. I find singing alluring. If you can sing, then you can definitely be my personal rogue. And also play an instrument as well, although not a cello, because I'm a cellist and they're bloody heavy things to carry around and awkward and cumbersome. A guitar or a lute strapped across your back would be ideal, or a harp, minstrel type stuff, one of those minstrelly harps. Dancing, not so much. I mean, obviously terpsichorean skills are always handy if you're the acrobatic type of rogue. Maybe you do several backflips when you jump out of a window, and when you land you do an attitude promenade, who knows. But I don't think dancing is quite such a big deal, and certainly it doesn't make my socks roll up and down in the same way as a good singing voice does. Question number 4, the Musketeers. Do you believe in a code of honour or justice even when breaking the rules? Yes, hell yes. Now, I believe in this in the real world as well. In fact, most importantly in the real world, where it's so sadly lacking. I really do believe in honour. I have an honour code, and I think everyone else bloody well ought to as well. I think one of the things that's wrong with the world is that people don't have honour anymore. But certainly in a fantasy setting, and certainly rogues ought to have honour. There's honour among thieves, and I think if you're going to be a rogue, you'd better try and be a lovable one, and that's going to involve being honourable, or as honourable as you can be, being that you're a rogue. Question number 5. Maverick. When doing roguish things, do you prefer to act alone or in a group? Now, this is asking as if I'm the rogue in this scenario. The answer is variable here. Personally, I'm kind of a loner. I'm not comfortable in groups. I'm a little bit special. But if I was a rogue in a fantasy setting and I wasn't special, or at least I was special in a different way, certainly it would be nice to have a couple of friends. A couple of other musketeers, perhaps, although they wouldn't be musketeers. I'm not a fan of the moustaches. Or the feathers, to be honest. The feathers are a bit silly. Unless you're doing full feathers, feather boas and sequins, that's another thing entirely. I'm getting very distracted. Yes, if I was being a rogue in the real world, I would probably do it in a solitary sort of way. But being a rogue in a fantasy environment, I would like to have a couple of friends, and we're like musketeers, but not in the musketeer sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Let's move on. Question number 6. Star-Lord. Do you have a fun alias or nickname you go by? Well, not really. I mean, in the real world, I'm known as Tagman, and I have a sidekick, Robin. But in the rogotistical world of fantasy, what would my name be? Well, do you know what? Hundreds and millions of years ago, when I was youthful, before I had the white beard and resembled Father Christmas, I used to play fantasy role-playing games with my friend Peter. And I believe my character's name was Dwayne Bulging Tights. Yes, that was my character's name, Dwayne Bulging Tights. But he was Garth Thunderjock, and that might give you some idea about the kind of fantasy role-playing we were into. I'm so going to cut that out. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Question number 7. Loki. Have you ever played pranks on your family members? Probably, but I don't recall any right now. Nope, nothing. I got nothing. Question number 8. Debbie Ocean. Do you have any infamous family members or friends? Well, yes. There was an aunt, or possibly a great aunt, I can't remember the exact story, but she ran off with an Algerian prince who ended up being a spy for the French underground, and when she found out about this, she threw herself under a train. Or maybe was pushed. Question number 9. Han Solo. Have you ever used secret compartments or hiding places for things? If so, what? Yes, a lot. I was really into the old black and white mystery movies that had creepy houses with lots of wood panelling on the walls, and of course a lot of these wooden panels would slide away to reveal secret passages or secret hiding places, all that kind of thing. The cat and the canary kind of stuff. I loved all of that. I was very influenced by it, so I was always building secret compartments into things. I had a desk with secret compartments in it. I had a bed with secret compartments. I was often hiding things under floorboards or up in the attic. I did all kinds of things at my school involving secret compartments and secreting things away in various caches of one description or another. I was a secretive kind of kid, and I really enjoyed all of that stuff. Question number 10. Indiana Jones. Do you have an iconic item, such as a hat or whip, that people know you by? You know, since starting my channel, I suppose my mic could be considered iconic. I suppose it's kind of recognisable. It's attached to my face in every single video that you see me in and all the thumbnails. These shirts that I wear. I know it may appear as if I've only got one or two. I've got a whole wardrobe full of them, but they're all one of 3 different colours, but all the same shirts. And these things with the opening things here, these could, I suppose, be a trademark of sorts, I suppose. I wear other stuff as well. I've experimented. I'm not much of a fashion icon. Do I? I don't really... No. Not really. No. Question number 11. Captain Jack Sparrow. Was there a time that you were almost caught doing something but got away? No. Every single time I was actually caught and I didn't get away. I've told you about the time I was running naked in the woods, frolicking around, enjoying nature, and stumbled across a police ambush and was promptly arrested as a suspected poacher. But when the police discovered that I didn't have any pheasants or anything else about my person, instead they decided to arrest me for exposing myself to a female police officer. And I argued to the judge that I wouldn't have exposed myself to anyone if they hadn't have jumped out from behind a tree and surprised me, and he took a dim view of my cheek and fined me £525. But that's a story I've already told in another video. There have been many similar incidents. I mean, there was an incident involving knives in Oxford Street. I could tell you about the time I tried to blow up my school with Tampax because it looked a little bit like dynamite. I was only 8 years old at the time. But yes, I found some Tampax and thought that's a useful thing for blowing up the school with. So I tried to blow up the school with Tampax. I got caught and that didn't go very well. Also, I used to unscrew the washers from the back of the flush pipe on the school toilets and enjoy flooding those. But I got caught as well and I had to pay money, and it was a strict telling off. I was in trouble a lot. Question number 12. Doctor Who. How likely are you to run and hide if there's something scary in your life? Now, this is an interesting one for me to answer, completely separate from fantasy or fiction in general. In the real world, no, I don't run. I tend to face things head on. If there's a problem, I like to deal with it immediately. And I kind of put all my resources into doing that, despite the fact that much of the time I've got limited resources. I'm talking about my mental capacity and my emotional, my ability to cope with things emotionally. I have lots of problems. I have been very cowardly in the past, and it is certainly in my nature to want to retreat and hide away and go to bed and stay there for 20 years, which I did. But not so much because of something scary in my life. That's more to do with something scary in my head, which is a whole separate thing. And I've got bipolar and it really messes with me. Yes and no. I mean, I do have it in me to run away and hide, and I have done that for reasons of insanity. But it's also part of my personality that I like to deal with things head on and confront my demons and do battle, which is surprising to some people, including myself, because a lot of the time I do seem very timid, and I also play up my weaknesses rather than my strengths a lot of the time. Question number 13. River Song. Do you call other people endearing nicknames? Yes, I do, and I'm not going to give you any examples because it's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing. But yes, I do have nicknames for people, and they're endearing. Question number 14. Captain Jack Harkness. Have you had any near-death experiences? Yes, several. When I was young, when maybe 10 or 11 years old, I went potholing. I used to enjoy caving, amongst many other action activities in my holidays. But I was really enjoying potholing, and I was in a pot. It was called Swilden's Pot. It's a very scary one. It's a complicated one. I don't even think children are probably allowed in it nowadays, but I was allowed to go in and it was fine. I mean, we're talking about the early 80s, mid-80s, mid-80s. You get into this thing by literally crawling into a narrow crack in the ground. A teeny tiny little crack. I mean, you squeeze through a crevice into the ground, and then this whole cave system which extends for miles underground, and parts of it are wet, and there are sumps where you have to dive underwater and then come up and hopefully not drown, and you have to pull yourself along, and there are also bits where there are sheer drops, and I fell down one of these sheer drops. I think it was maybe 50 feet I fell. It was narrow, so I fell 50 feet downwards, but I was bouncing back and forth off rock walls, and so that slowed my descent, and I didn't actually hurt myself when I reached the bottom, but I'm going to describe that as a near-death experience anyway. It could have gone badly, and I was in a place where rescue would have been very, very difficult. That's just one of many, many examples I could give you. Question number 15. In all of literature, who is your favourite rogue? It's really difficult. It's really difficult. I'm going to have to say Lujan, I think. Lujan from the Empire trilogy by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wirtz. But there are several. There are several. And it's hard not to go to the Kerr books for this one, but I think I'm going to stick with Lujan. Because you're not at all sick of hearing about the Empire trilogy, are you? Anyway, that's it. I'm all done. That's my 15 questions. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy it and you haven't already, you know what to do. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share, comment, do all the good stuff, and I will see you next time. See you later.